Alright, time for the back slats. You need one center back slat and two intermediate back slats and two outer back slats. Now the back slats are 3.5 inches wide, so to make your life a little easier, I would look for a board that's probably at least 7.5 inches wide. This way, from one board you can get two outers, you get two intermediates, and you can get two centers, even though you don't need two centers. What you can do is you can share that with a friend. Alright, so the center back slat has a finished length of 30 3/4. So in order to rough to length, I always add at least an inch. So I would rough to length for the center back slat 32 inches long. The intermediate back slat, the finished length, is 29 5/8. So my rough to length dimension would be 31 for the intermediate back slat. And the outer back slat is 25 1/4 inches long for the finished length. So maybe something like 26.5 inches for our rough to length. So once you have your boards rough to length, you're going to go to the jointer and you're going to joint one edge on each board. And then we can go to the table saw and we can rip our boards down to 3.5 inches wide. And then we're going to square the ends. So each end, go back to the miter saw, just take what I call a sliver cut, just a teeny tiny bit off of this end, and I'd also do the same thing up here, and up here. So square the ends on the miter saw. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to use the templates. So you put the templates on your board and line up the bottom edge and just go ahead and trace the contour or the profile or the curve. Trace that onto your board, trace that onto your board, and trace that onto your board. Noting that those holes right here are for hanging the templates up when we're done, so don't mark the holes. There's no reason to put the holes there. So now what you're going to do is you're going to go and cut these on the bandsaw. So just a regular cut on the bandsaw, 0-degree bevel. So again, what I do is I just stay to the outside of the line after you trace it, stay to the outside, and then once they're cut, you're going to go to the belt sander and you can sand right to the line. Now what we need to do is put in two clearance holes on the bottom of each center slat, or sorry, on the bottom of each slat, so that we can go ahead and we can screw these to the seat base. So the holes will be 3/4 of an inch in from the edge and 3/8 of an inch up from the bottom. So the easiest thing to do is get two combination squares. I've got one combination square set to measure 3/4 of an inch, and I have one combination square set to measure 3/8 of an inch. So the 3/4 I measure in from the side. I put a mark. And then the 3/8 I measure up from the bottom. So now you can see we have X marks the spot. X marks the spot. That's where we want to go ahead and we're going to drill our clearance holes. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark out all our boards and get ready to drill them. Once the holes are all laid out, I always like to use the awl to put a little dimple at X marks the spot. So this way, when we go to use the drill won't walk or wander. It'll go right into that center point. We're just going to use a hand drill to drill those holes. And it's a 5/64 diameter bit. When you drill the holes, it's a through hole, so I would always put a support block underneath it, drill the holes, and then we're going to get ready for assembly. Once you have the holes laid out and the dimple at X marks the spot, we're going to go ahead and we're going to drill clearance holes for our screws. We're going to use a 5/32 twist drill. We're just going to use a handheld drill. These are going to be through holes, meaning we're going to go all the way through the board. So it would be good to put a sacrificial block, a support block underneath. This way it's going to hold the wood fibers in place and eliminate some tear out. And it also is going to prevent you from drilling a hole in the table. Once your holes are drilled, you're ready to do some sanding. Spend a lot of time with your rough sanding 80 grit. Make sure that you do both faces, the edges, and the top. Then you're going to move to 120. You can spend a lot less time with 120, and then finally maybe just a real quick 220. And now you're ready to put the back slats on your seat frame.